I guess my first question is, how did you find out this was happening?
I received a text from a friend right after I put my son to sleep, and getting a Twitter link for me is like Russian roulette. So I was like, oh my God, what could this be now? And I found that Grok was undressing me, and it had taken a fully clothed photo of me. Someone asked it to put me in a bikini, and it did. So immediately I responded to Grok and said, hey, I don't consent to this. I'd like you to confirm that I don't consent to this. And then there was just a plethora of other images that were more and more explicit that were then produced.
When you say you responded to Grok, what does that mean for someone who's never used Grok?
So all of this came about by people publicly tagging the bot on Twitter. You can use Grok and tag Grok, and it will answer questions or now produce images for you if you publicly tag it. And that means all the responses that Grok has are then publicly distributed as well. So in these replies, I am publicly replying to Grok, producing these images of me and saying, hey, I do not consent to this. Please remove it.
And did they remove it?
It took, some of them they did, some of them it took 36 hours, and others are still up. And again, they just became more and more explicit, and the age in which I was in these photos that they were using got younger and younger. So
who were these people making
I have no
these
idea.
images?
Random users on Twitter.
And these aren't real images?
These are real images of me that they then took and had them undress me. So they found a photo of me when I was 14 years old and had Grok undress 14-year-old me and put me in a bikini. They found other photos where I am completely clothed as an adult and had it put me in a floss bikini, which, as you can imagine, a floss bikini is basically nude. And then other users asked that Grok bend me over in the floss bikini. So it's basically porn. And in so many of these, you can see my actual toddler's backpack in the background, the backpack that I then had to put on his back and take him to school in the next morning.
So your little toddler's backpack was just in the picture, and so now that picture was everywhere.
Sure was.
Seeing these images that are real photos of you, but then doctored in this way, what goes through your...
Violated. And as soon as this happened, and I spoke out about it, I had a lot of other women who reached out to me, and it turns out my mom had seen a lot of this as well and had been documenting it. I saw little girls this was happening to publicly. Grok was publicly producing and distributing little girls being undressed, put into bikinis, and then covered in white donut glaze. There were other children and women who users were not only undressing, but having bruises added to them. So there was such a horrific just abuse happening here. And again, as we're speaking right now, there are still images of me that are up.
Have you spoken to an actual human, a real person, about this?
No.
I mean, you probably have some access to the person who is the head of Twitter.
I'm going to go through all of the resources and avenues available to every other woman and child who have been victimized by Grok and by the platform. And that resource, because I'd like to know exactly what that looks like for everyone else that this happens to. And if it happens to you or your children, your resource is 3 dots on the post that you can tap. And then there's about 10 options. And within those 10 options, you can find report post. And then you can report it and hope they take it down.
So you're very purposefully going the route that any normal person would have to go to.
Correct.
Why not text or call and say, hey, get these images off?
What's that going to do? The executive C-suite and the owner of Twitter are very well aware this is happening. By texting them, I'm not bringing their attention to something that they don't know. The only thing I would be doing is getting some sort of special removal for myself. And that's not very helpful.
So you think Elon Musk knows that this is what this bot is doing?
They have put out a statement saying that any users who do this is illegal, and they're placing all the blame on the users who are prompting Grok to do this. But the issue with that is that places a really unfair burden on the victims, because what am I going to do? I'm going to go call NYPD and tell them that anonymous user 849 is undressing me and undressing children, and they're going to try to find this individual. It's very burdensome for anyone who's been victimized, and the women in my DMs are incredibly distraught. They have no idea how to fix this. They don't know how to get these images down. They are concerned for their mental health, for their career opportunities, for their children, and they're not really getting answers.
Have you tried to have a conversation with Elon Musk about this is a problem, we need to fix it?
It seems he's aware of the issue.
Does it seem like an issue that they're willing to solve? What's the solution here?
As of right now, the images of me that I described are still up.
Why speak publicly about it?
Because the least I can do, I'll preface by saying, this brings a litany of issues for me because of my positioning in this, but I also feel an obligation to speak out for the people who do not have a platform and do not have a voice and cannot talk to you about what's going on and cannot have it amplified and do not have congressional representatives that they can call and try to get action on this. So this is a broader issue in terms of what we're going to do for AI regulation and why this is allowed to happen, and the fact that they definitely knew that this could and would be an issue.
You said this brings up a litany of issues for you. Explain what that means.
I wish I could elaborate on that more, but I will keep it here. I'm sure anyone can infer the type of issues I could face speaking up right now.
Is it uncomfortable for you to speak up?
Yeah, I do not enjoy being here right now. But I'm happy that people are covering it.
Does it make you worry about what things look like going forward?
Yes, but worry is a waste of imagination at this point. I just need to focus on my kids and do what's right.
I guess the thing that I'm kind of trying to get at is you are taking a big risk by publicly talking about this.
Yeah.
Why take that risk?
Because there's women in my messages talking about suicidality. And I had to see a 4-year-old little girl. I don't even know who she is or who her parents are. I don't know if her parents even know that she was posted on this platform and publicly undressed, placed into a bluey bikini, and then covered in white fluid.
Do you feel like you have a positive enough relationship with Elon Musk to say, hey, come on, this seems like an obvious thing we need to fix?
I'm not at liberty to discuss that, but publicly you can find that there are people more prominent than me who have spoken on this issue, and their response has been to place blame on the users.
You know you get a lot of attention, especially with this issue, because of your proximity to him. Has that been a difficult road to navigate?
Sort of. I also think that's a bit misleading because I've been outspoken on issues that are adjacent to this, and I had a platform far before my prior entanglement with the owner of Twitter.
Do you feel like it limits you a little bit?
Oh, it does. They're placing, ever since I've come publicly out against Grok, they're placing warnings and restrictions on my post in which I ask Grok to remove the non-consensual images of me.
Warnings meaning?
Labels saying that, this might be sensitive content.
Because you've made a big deal about it?
They haven't provided a reason.
Does it bug you that oftentimes when people see your name, they associate you?
That is, oh yeah. Yeah, my lower third is always the same. But I'm hopeful that I can move past that eventually.
That people will stop immediately. That's the thing that they talk about.
But that does seem to be a theme here, to reduce women to.
People are curious about you. I think they're curious about all of it.
Yeah.
Are you friendly with some of the other mothers? Is there a bond between all of you?
I'm not here to discuss that as much as I would love to. I do want to keep the focus on the issue of what's happening with Grok.
Do you think it will get fixed?
Grok? No.
I mean, coming from you, that's like really doesn't make people feel good about what's the possibility going forward.
Everyone should be asking questions to the investors who just raised $20 billion for XAI in the midst of this scandal. And this isn't new. They can't claim ignorance that this was a possibility that was going to happen, because if you remember the former Twitter CEO that Elon had appointed, Linda Yaccarino, the context of her resignation right before she resigned, just hours, days before she resigned, she was the victim of rape fantasies from Grok, from users prompting Grok to produce rape fantasies of her. And shortly after that, she resigned. So for them to claim ignorance, or like they didn't know this was a possibility when they launched their image generation, that would be untrue.
What has to happen for it to change?
Regulation needs to happen, and it shouldn't be crafted at a Mar-a-Lago table. And I think there also needs to be pressure from within the industry. There needs to be pressure from others in the AI industry and other companies, because it's going to be very hard to go back from the amount of power certain people are being afforded with these LLMs.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who kind of feel like if you can't even get this down and stopped, who's actually going, what's the motivation to make it not happen for the next person?
There is none. And it does concern me when there's such a blame placed on users that there is some sort of angle for Section 230-esque protections for AI, which would be a disaster. With Grok, it's not only producing these images, but it's publicly distributing them onto the platform. And when you speak up about this, you're being told, well, then get off the internet, then don't speak, then log off Twitter, which is completely antithetical to, we paid $44 billion for free speech. This is the town square. You are the media now. And then being told if you don't want to be assaulted and exploited by this rogue mecha Hitler chatbot that you should lag off.
Can I be really candid?
Yes.
I think a lot of people are going to see you talking about this, and I've watched other interviews that you've done, and sort of what you're like and who you are, and people might be surprised at what you're like. Do you encounter that a lot?
Sometimes I like to, leaving the internet, what people don't understand is I was on the internet since I was like 13 years old. I was very much a product child of the internet. I didn't get off of it once I got on it. And my unfortunate scandal and entanglements did force me to get off the internet for a bit, which I think was really positive, because it was the first time I was able to look at things absent some political persuasion or identity, and I think that's been a positive in all of this.
Mm-hmm. But people have preconceived notions about what they think you are and what you're like, I imagine. You encounter that all the time.
I think they also need that to be true. I think they need a lot of things to be true, right? Like even when it comes to the topic of Grok, and there's this habit of creating a caricature of Elon that's just crazy or off the rails, or he just does drugs. And I think that's very comforting to people, because it forces you to not see what's really going on and the reality of how calculated a lot of things are. So I think people produce those caricatures to comfort themselves and not look further into what's actually being said and what's happening.
You don't sound optimistic that it's going to get better, though.
No.
So why speak up?
Because there are so many women begging me to speak up and saying thank you for speaking up. And this is a world and an internet that your children and my children are going to have to deal with. And it's on us to make sure that we are good stewards of this new, insane world we're building, because I don't know that we're going to have control of it for much longer.
Yeah, you mentioned the caricature of him that exists on the internet. What is he actually like then?
I say that to say that none of these behaviors, when you analyze something like what's happening with Grok and these women and children being exploited and abused by his AI, is to not brush it off to some caricature and to really think, hey, what's going on here and what's the motivations here and how could an individual possibly benefit from this, and really critically think through what's happening with XAI and the larger conversation of AI generally.
I mean, who could benefit from that, though?
All I have is theories, but there's a lot of different possibilities. Edge case data is very valuable. So what are they doing with that data? Because now that this scandal's happened and is still happening, there's a trove of data that's come from this, and that data is incredibly valuable. Are they going to sell that data? What are they doing with it? I would like to know what they're doing with it. And data is, think of it like a mineral, right? Mm-hmm. Rare earth minerals, but there's a tier, you have gold or whatever, lithium. Edge case data is very valuable. And this is certainly edge case data. I do worry that women and children being abused might be collateral in some other calculation for an outcome that someone prefers.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people think of Elon Musk's role in Twitter or X, whatever we're going to call it these days, is sort of more on the outside.
Oh, he's very involved. That's why I know that this can all be stopped with a singular message to an engineer, because I've watched him bother those engineers for a whole lot less.
So if he wanted it to stop, it could stop.
It wouldn't be happening.
So why doesn't he make it stop?
That's a great question that people should ask him.
Have you asked him?
Not my place. That's for journalists and our elected officials and regulators to ask him.
You have a child with Elon Musk. Does this, talking about this, put your life situation in jeopardy?
I'm not at liberty to speak about that right now, and hopefully we can keep the focus on what's happening with Grok and XAI right now.
Do you talk to him?
I'm not at liberty to speak about that, and I would like to keep the focus on what's happening.
Okay, and last from me, I think you mentioned that you didn't want policy to come from a Mar-a-Lago dinner. Where should it come from?
It should come from the AI industry and young people and people who have been thinking and writing about these issues for a long time. People should, if they are upset by this, and many people are horrified, I don't even think me speaking to you really conveys how disgusting and horrific the images I had to see are. Call your representatives.
But do you think that does
That
anything?
is what I have been told by certain regulators, is that if people are upset about this, they need to call their representatives, so that it's not just one representative who's getting a complaint about it. Everybody needs to pressure their representatives to do something about this, because it's not going to stop here. And we're in a very precarious time when it comes to AI, and people need to speak up if they're uncomfortable with it.